triggers. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 171.
171.
What are we talking about?
This is recognizing triggers.
Good.
Yeah, we all have them, really.
Oh, yeah.
It took me a long time to figure this out, but I think I haven't figured out yet, and I'm hoping that this episode will help others to figure it out.
I think you're right. If anybody has any form of trauma, they have some level of a trigger, I think so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, before we get into it, anything you want to touch about from last week?
Last week we did Why Are We So Anxious? And in that episode, I did a reading for Patricia about the hunting dog that was missing. Okay.
Right.
So let me read. I went back and forth whether I wanted to read this response or not, only because it is kind of depressing.
Yeah.
But I think there's probably some people that are curious about this. So I'm going to read it.
Sure.
It's a little long, but that's okay. It says, Gypsy was sold as a puppy and put into hunting training. When she wasn't good enough, she was put out on the street. It's a small town with no animal control. She was spotted by a lot of people who were unable to catch her. For the most part of her young life, she was running around the area. She was trapped and sold to a neighbor of the rescue. After a month, the family was unable to feed her, so she was sold to a young boy. She escaped from him and the next morning was at the rescue. The couple running it are some of the best in the rescue business that I know of. They instantly fell in love with Gypsy. They were concerned about her horrible condition, so they immediately got to work. She was bathed, fed, and loved on. She was making great progress in a very short period of time. About 3 days later, they put her food out, and after a few minutes went to check on her, and she was gone. They put up signs and spoke to the neighbor. He was shocked because no one had been able to touch her, nevertheless bathe her. They felt this was fate. While searching for her, they found out that the kid had trespassed on the rescue property and somehow grabbed and took her. So this is where I want to stop this for a second, because when I started reading this, I was like, no, this is not what happened. This kid did not grab her. So I kept reading, and it was, more of that. And then later Patricia messaged me and she said, yeah, they don't think that's what happened after all. Yeah. She wants to go home. She wants to go to the people that originally put her out on the street, which is just so sad. So that's what she's been trying to do all this time. So she did escape from there, was my feeling. But the guy that lives next door to the rescue, that this was his dog, he's not a very good person, and he's been making threats and stuff. So if he's still making threats, he obviously doesn't have the dog. So anyways, if there's any continuation on this story, I'll let everybody know. But this is Arkansas, and a lot of times this kind of thing in the South, this happens. Dogs roam free there, and it's hard to catch them all and take care of them all, and it's very sad. But I'm hoping that this one won't have a bad ending after all, but we will see.
Yeah.
So
me too.
Thank you, Patricia, for getting back
Patricia.
to us on that. And then every week we answer 2 questions. So the first one is from Sash. She says, if on anxiety medication, does meditation still work? I'm feeling kind of numb, but not totally, if that makes sense. But that feeling of having your heart full isn't there. So I asked her, when you say anxiety medication, are you talking about like Xanax, like actual anxiety medication, or depression medication? And it's depression medication that she was talking about, Lexapro in particular. I am on depression medication myself. I have been for many, many, many years. It's for me, it has nothing to do with the state that my life is in. It's a chemical or something, because no matter how good my life is, it's impossible at this point, it seems, to be off of the antidepressants, although at some point I would like to try. So I take Wellbutrin, and I have never had a problem with Wellbutrin. I don't feel numb. I don't feel any of that. But after my mom died, I took Prozac, and I've told you many times, Danny, that happened. I felt like you could punch me in the face, and I would have just laughed. It wouldn't have, not that it was funny, it just didn't matter.
Right.
It was just completely numb. So I can't say from experience whether those are SSRIs. Wellbutrin is not. It does not release the serotonin, so it's different. So I can't tell you for sure whether Lexapro, what it will do. But if you're feeling that way, and we're really not supposed to not feel. We're supposed to have all the experiences of the feelings. It's just sometimes because of things we've been through or chemical imbalance or whatever, we need something extra. But if Lexapro is making you feel numb, I would definitely suggest trying something else, because I don't think there's any amount of meditation or anything that will make your heart feel full if it's making you, the medication's making you feel that numb.
Yeah.
You know, that's my best advice. But I would love to, if there's anybody listening that has experienced this that would like to give some feedback or advice, to please message us.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it, because I can't talk firsthand on this at all. So
yeah, I've never
either,
really taken them, so I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, so I hope that answers that question as best as we could.
Thank you.
And then the next one is from Sunshine. And she says, so if we are here to learn lessons, what happens after we have learned all the lessons after thousands of lifetimes? Do we just go back to the source and be content? Do we start over? Is there an ending of lessons? Or do we just get bored of peace and say, let's try that one again? This is a really cool question.
That's a great question. Well thought out.
Definitely.
My personal opinion is, not only are there lessons, you figure from each situation there's two sides.
Yeah.
Usually. We have to experience every lesson from both sides, meaning being a female, being a male, being right, being wrong. And so if there's thousands, if not hundreds or millions of lessons just on one side of the spectrum, that would double it, in my mind, to add both, which means how many can we actually learn and that we pass all of them in each life? How many can we actually do? So that leaves me to feel like that's why it's necessary to do this so many times.
Right. I think that as far as what happens after we've learned all of these lessons, if that, I'm sure that is possible, but like Danny said, there's so many. I think because eternity is eternity and that's forever, in my opinion, we can do it. Well, I think we can do a few things. We can stay with the source. We can, just live our existence on the other side there, helping. Maybe we become an angel when we get that close. I'm not really sure.
Right.
But I tend to believe that even after we've learned all the lessons, that we probably still want to come back here and do it some more, which may seem silly because this is really hard. But the thing is I think when you've learned all those lessons, the more lessons you've learned, the more you can help people, the more you can come back here and be a spiritual person. So if somebody learned all of these lessons and they said, I want to go back, they probably want to come back and help.
Right.
Or do something productive like that. But I think that we can do anything we want.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that everybody has the same goal. All souls are different. Some souls don't want to do any of it, which is weird to me too, that they just want to stay on the other side and visit and learn there and whatever, and they can do that. They can do whatever they want.
I think that every life is precious and important.
Yeah.
However, I feel like when we go there to the other side and you have your soul family around you and somebody has something they need to work on. Let's say Samantha says, I'm ready to go back. I've realized what it is I need to work on. Then they sit and decide who is best to go with you into this life.
Right.
To be there and experience this and help you.
Yeah, and for you to help them, too.
So it's not to say that each one of our lives at the moment isn't precious and important. But I do believe that because we do this so many times, one may be more focused on another. The storyline may be more focused on another than it is the rest.
Yeah.
But believe you me, with all this eternity going on, there's plenty of time where each of us will have that.
Yes.
When we go back and evaluate what we've done, we'll go, okay, I need to work on this. And then we determine who fits into the movie roles.
Right.
Into the script.
Yes, exactly. Something on this topic, but not completely, that sometimes I have these conversations with my mother. I would say they're probably daily, and they're just random tidbits of information, things that she would like me to know, whatever. But one of them that came to me very recently was that they want us to experience everything. Mm-hmm. Absolutely everything. Well, we do. We want ourselves to. As the soul, that is really the purpose, is to experience everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Mm-hmm. I mean murder. I mean tragedy.
Being murdered.
Both sides of it. If you're murdered, you should experience it from both sides, doing the murdering and being the murderer. Every single thing. So we wonder, how can there be all this tragedy, and there's so many things in the world that are unfair and unjust, but these are the things that we learn from. So everybody that's in a situation that doesn't seem like it's even that great, they're there because they want to be there, because they have to experience that. They don't realize that in life. They're not sitting there going, not everybody sitting there going, well, I need to figure this out and learn this. No, most people sit there and are like, this sucks. This is horrible. I never want to come back here. But really, if we can stop and just focus on what is the lesson here, what am I supposed to learn? What am I here to experience? Then we learn it and don't have to come back and do that again. But I think the reason that she told me that is because that kind of opened my mind up to a lot of things. The experience everything.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me think I want to experience as much in this lifetime as I can.
Exactly. We're like reporters.
Yeah.
We go back to the universe, back to the source, and report what that experience was like. So somebody going off the road into a lake and drowning in their car, is tragic and as wasteful as that might seem of a life, it's an experience. And it's just as important as somebody graduating college or having a birth of a baby. It can't all be good because it's all experience. It's something that can't compare to another.
Yep, absolutely.
And so it's just as important.
Yep.
We come here to have those and then bring them back and share.
Yep. So you will face absolutely everything. You will be, like Danny said, a man, a woman. You'll be black, white, Asian. You'll be gay, you'll be straight. Yeah. Everything you can imagine, because we have to experience it all.
And you've already been so many other things.
Yes.
Okay, that you don't even know that, my belief, that I don't even realize I've been. But the evolution of our personal energy, our piece of God and the source, is growing. It's changing through our own evolution and experiences. So I've spent time as a tree.
Yeah, very
I've
possibly.
spent time as a cloud. I've spent time as a rock, as an animal. And I believe I work my way up to consciousness that's at a higher level.
Yeah. I could go on and on and on about this topic. There's so many different things that I could say, but we need to move on. Yeah. But there is one thing that I wanted to say, that if I said have to, that you have to do this, please know that I don't mean you have to do this, that there's somebody forcing you to do it. If you choose to do this, this is how this is done. So it's not a have to. I just wanted to correct myself on that.
Yeah.
So nothing is have to. It's all what you want to do.
Absolutely. You'll want to.
You want to, yeah, for sure. Okay, so thank you for that, Sunshine.
Thank you, Sunshine.
Love that question. And then let's do a reading before we go into the episode.
All right.
This is from Candace. This is a medium reading. She said, I am currently wanting to sell the house I'm in. This house was my granny's, then mom's. It was passed down to me and Adrian, my little sister, who's 14, when mom passed away in 2017. Mom also wanted to just make sure Adrian and I had a place to call home. I have been battling depression and sadness for years now since my mom passed. Staying in this house that she lived in and struggled as well mentally and physically in, I'm wanting some guidance and clarity on this decision to sell, pay off debt that started with mom and now mine, split money with Adrian, put it into a trust, and use my part to get another house with my wife. I've gone back and forth for a good while and recently reached out to figure out my options, and things seem to be moving very quickly. I'm nervous, though. So she asked if I would talk to her mother, Samantha, and ask her
Oh, cute.
Yeah, she's such a sweet lady. I've talked
She
to her
looks it.
before. Yeah, very sweet. So she asked if I would talk to her mother and ask her what should she do, because we do tend to like get this sentimental part of us that is like, well, this is grandma's and mom's, and I should keep it. But there's also that heaviness that comes with those memories, especially when you're trapped in that grief still from your mother's death. And I totally get that. As you guys know, I've been there. So I understand the loss of anybody can really mess with your head. But your mother and sudden really has this way of just jolting you. And so Candace was very, very jolted by this and still is. Yeah. So let's talk to Mom and see what she says about what to do from here. So Mom's number one importance here is that you are happy. It's not about money. It's not about home or possessions. She wants you to be happy. Of course, you have to have a roof over your head and all of those things. Keeping the house because it is Mom and Grandma's is not important. She doesn't want you to find that important. Okay, so when these things start to come up in our lives, the universe will try to take control. We have to just allow them to have the control. And how we do that is when opportunities are presented to us, we take them. If they're not meant for us, there will be roadblocks, things that will stop it. Things won't go your way, whatever that is. Like, let's just say that you're not supposed to sell this house, but I really think you are. But let's just say you're not supposed to, and buyer after buyer fall through, and it's just not happening. Well, there you go. There's your answer. That's the universe putting up roadblocks of, no, maybe you shouldn't do this.
Right. Don't force it.
Right. But in your situation, your mom's telling me things that are moving quickly because it's time. It's time for you to take back control of your life. It's time for you to feel secure and not feel like on edge, like you are just living. I feel like you're living, I don't even want to say paycheck to paycheck. This literally feels like day to day. This feels like one day you're just like, I don't know how I'm even going to pay this bill. Right. And Mom doesn't want you to feel like that. You have this money that you could use to pay off this debt and start a new life. From that moment, when all of that is done, when all of the debt is paid off and you're in a new home, that's when the new life begins. And then at that point, it's very much your decision of where you go with it. Are you going to allow yourself to get back into that debt? Mom will be there with you, guiding you, helping you to not do those things. So she wants you to just watch out for all of the signs that she's giving and not put up resistance. Don't overthink is the big thing that she's saying. Overthinking when you're like, nitpicking everything, it's not going to work. Just go with it. Allow this to happen. Allow yourself to get to a place where you're financially secure. That's what she wants, and that's what she's trying to push you to do. So that's why things seem to be moving really quickly, and they will continue to move really quickly, and just go with them. What I see, like sometimes they show me analogies or things to compare to, and it's not like a flash flood or anything, but it's like I feel like this gate opening and like I see water coming in slowly into this river that's been dry for a long time is what I'm visualizing. So to me, that means that this river, this money issue that you've been having for a long time is going to come to an end, and this is going to help it. So just allow Mom to help you. So I hope that helps and that's the advice you were looking for.
That's cool.
And Mom loves you very much. And I'm going to stop there before the tears start. The moms get me. Yeah. They do. Actually, I mentioned last week that I'm going to be having the radio show. And one week that I have the radio show, Nisha is going to come on and be a host. And we've talked about the fact that that's going to be what we talk about. Because we've both lost our mothers and it changed our lives. And so we're going to do an episode on just losing your mother.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Should be a good one.
Yeah, I think so. So anyways, Candace, thank you. And
Thanks,
thank you,
Candace.
Samantha, for coming through for us.
Samantha.
And
Very
then let's give our info before we start.
All right.
All right. So you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. If you would like to message us at the show, it's spiritualjoneses@gmail.com. Or on social media, you can find us at spiritualjoneses.
Yay.
And you?
Yes, for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Yay.
Okay, then. Well, episode 171, Recognizing Triggers.
Recognizing triggers. I don't think that I really recognized my triggers until the last few years.
Yeah.
You hear that term all the time, that triggered me or trigger warning or whatever, but I still never really thought about the fact of that these things that I experienced, these traumatic things, that they carry certain things with them that when those things are triggered might set off depression, anxiety, rage, a whole list of different things. So
and really, once you do, I guess maybe some people go, well, then that's just a reminder of past trauma. Okay, yes, that is true. It does, however, keep you from maybe going down the same dead-end paths.
yeah.
It can, if you're acknowledging it as, oh, there it is, before I go any further, instead of just being instantaneously reactional, excuse me.
This is another topic that requires us to be alert and honest with ourselves. The honesty is hard. It's really hard. Like we had an argument, you and and you said something to me and I admitted to it. I said, yeah. And you said, wow, thank you for being honest. And it's like, you have to be honest with yourself about your own negative side, your own triggers, why you do the things that you do. Because if you're not honest with yourself, what good is it going to do? You're not going to be able to change these things. So yes, recognizing your triggers is very, very important to helping all of us along this spiritual journey. So first, the term triggered refers to an emotional reaction to a disturbing topic. For someone with a history of trauma, being triggered can make the person feel like they are experiencing the trauma all over again.
Yeah.
A trigger is anything that brings back those feelings or prompts an increase of return of symptoms of PTSD and other issues. So, for example, if you're an alcoholic and you are in recovery and then you see somebody having a shot or whatever, that could trigger you to remember something about your journey. It could trigger a whole lot of different emotions for you. There is a difference between triggers and things that are just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So not everything, if I hate to put it this way, but like let's say that you come across a video on TikTok that's about rape, and there's a thing that it says, if you've had this kind of thing in your life, you might be triggered by this. If you haven't suffered rape or some kind of sexual abuse, you're not going to understand that trigger the way somebody that has been there. That's just uncomfortableness. You're just feeling uncomfortable when, a situation comes up like that. Mental illness alone is a trigger. That can set you off. Absolutely. So let's talk about the types of triggers. There's two. There's internal triggers, which is from within the person, and there's external. So, for example, external comes from a person's environment. It can be a place, person, or situation, a specific day, sounds, smells, locations. I don't like Easter because there were many Easters that were very, very bad. And so for a long time, Easter alone was a trigger. Yeah. Some days some Easters I just was not a happy person. But I had to realize that. I had to look at that. It's just a day. It's going to come once a year. Just let it go. That's in the past. But a lot of times, just something that simple can be a trigger.
Yeah, your memory almost creates a scenario where you feel like it's it again.
Right. Exactly. Let's see. So another one, a good one, example of an external is like, for me, phone calls. There were many times that I received phone calls in the middle of the night. Like one time one of my dogs was in surgery and she passed in the middle of the night, and you get the phone call and the phone rings in the middle of the night. Yeah. So for me, that's a trigger. So that's like an external trigger. That's something on the outside that can trigger that internal feeling. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that can set off your triggers, but most of them are PTSD related. I asked our listeners, what are some of the things that trigger you? And the number one was PTSD or past trauma. Yeah. Number two was arguing or yelling. This is huge for me too. This is a trigger that I've really had to work on and understand that it is okay for people to yell and to get upset. It's not always going to escalate to a point where it gets out of control. This is something I had to teach myself. Yeah. So, but I'm glad to hear, I mean, I hate to hear it, but I'm glad to hear that other people, that is a high trigger for other people too.
Oh,
the
yeah.
yelling. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Things that make me anxious are triggers. Absolutely. Unfair treatment, songs, sounds, smells, anything like that. And specific days and holidays like we had talked about. So it isn't known in the medical community yet exactly how these triggers form, but some health professionals believe that the brain stores memory differently from traumatic events than non-traumatic events. Mm-hmm. Here's a theory that I have. Because if I've talked about this before, if you remember that I read that when we have a memory, we're not remembering the actual event that happened. We're remembering the last time we remembered it.
Right.
So I wonder if we have like a tragic event, like that moment that I got the call that my mom died, right? That was tragic. Right. I thought about that many times, over and over and over again. But if I would have not done that, would I have the PTSD from that phone call that I do? Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. I wonder if we don't allow ourselves to think about these things over and over and replay them in our minds. I think that would really help us in a lot of areas, but with the triggers as well.
As much as I love the science aspect of it, because I've always loved science, at the risk of sounding ignorant, maybe it has nothing to do with the brain at all. Maybe this is just our consciousness, which is going to go with us. It's going to be with us always. So when we go to the other side, we still have all the memories that we have here.
Yeah.
But then we also remember all the other lives and experiences, which we don't remember while we're here, because we've explained, I think, how that could be a bit confusing for us and overwhelming. But yeah, some part of me goes, well, how the brain stores this and does that. Well, how do we know the brain has anything to do with it?
It's true.
You know,
if they can't find a reason in the brain either, which is why I said, I really think that we do a lot of this to ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, like, the next time that you have something traumatic, like a traumatic event that comes up, try your best not to replay it. Or, you know, and we, we tell the story over and over again. So that holds it inside as well. And it's like, sometimes that just can't be avoided. But I just think that would help us a lot if we did that.
Yeah.
A couple of things more about these triggers. Often triggers can cause an emotional reaction before a person even realizes they're upset. Mm-hmm. So, like, a trigger can spark this reaction, and you don't even know why you're upset.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm upset. I'm freaking out. What am I freaking out about? We'll get into it in the next part, but that's what we have to try to control. We have to learn to control the impulses, the reactions before we have a chance to go, whoa.
Triggers are unique in this sense because it's a very quick. The whole thing is so fast.
Yeah.
But I've kind of tried to give myself like this 3 to 5 second rule when I'm feel like I'm going to be triggered or something's happening.
Yeah.
Is to give myself a moment to process either what's happened or what's been said and not be instantaneously reactional. Mm-hmm. Give myself that 3 to 5 seconds to process it and think for a second, what's the best way to respond to this?
Right. Yeah.
You know, obviously, if it's a life-threatening situation, you may not have 3 to 5 seconds. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, that's different.
So.
Yeah. Emotional triggers can spark an intense emotional reaction regardless of the mood. So you could be in a perfectly good mood. I'll give you a funny example of this one. I went to karaoke with some friends, and I had just gone through a breakup, and there was a song that reminded me of the person that I broke up with. Mm-hmm. And instantly, this person gets up and starts singing the song. I start crying. Now, there was some alcohol involved, so I was already quite sensitive. But I started crying, just freaking out. And I went into the bathroom and I dealt with it on my own. But I was in such a good mood. And then the song comes on and it's like done. Right. That happened to me at Disneyland too once. Just like the song comes on and it ruins it.
Right.
And you don't even realize it till afterwards. You're like, wow, I just really let that song trigger me strong. And you have to go back and deal with it. That song doesn't do that to me anymore. I actually enjoy it now. It's very weird.
Yeah, you remember that your memories are still there. Yeah. And sometimes we forget about certain events and then something does come along and does that. And not all triggers are bad, like if you're somewhere and you smell a certain fragrance that reminds you of a person or a time, something to that nature, which is heartwarming, and you kind of relish that moment for a minute. I have a strange one. Ever since I was a little kid, and this isn't negative or positive, it's just strange. Ever since I was a little kid, being around my mom, whenever she would rummage around in her purse, I would get sleepy. It would make me want to doze off, like it was comforting to me. And I don't know if that's just because my whole life being next to my mom and knowing that sound, even as an infant and not, necessarily knowing who's around me.
Yeah.
I was familiar with that sound.
Yeah.
But this went on till my adult life and kind of, maybe into my 30s. Mm-hmm. So even like my first marriage, I would experience that sometimes. If we were sitting like in a waiting room or something and they were fishing through their purse,
how cool.
I would start to feel drowsy.
Wow, that's so weird. That's a trip.
And it doesn't happen to me anymore. But the memory does. Like when I hear you do it, I don't feel the drowsy, but I get that memory of like, oh, that used to make me drowsy.
That's interesting. And you know what? Like with something like that, with a trigger like that from a sound or whatever, you can allow it to do to you whatever you allow it to do. This morning, actually, it happened to me. I have a clothes hamper and it was my grandmother's. And I went to do laundry and I opened it and it still smells like her.
That's cool.
Yeah. Now, if that would have been my mom and it would have been 2004, I would have started crying hysterically. But it's not. And I miss my grandma and I love her dearly. But it gave me this warm sense, just like how that made you feel, the purse made you feel tired. Yeah. But you can do whatever you want with that. I could have started crying. I could have been like, oh, I can't believe this still smells like her. It's just whatever, whatever brain, part of your brain that you want to use that day, however you want to feel. But I feel like we should take those things and try and make them positive, even because that's what they want us to do. Because a lot of times spirits will give us those smells. They'll just come out of absolutely nowhere.
Oh, yeah,
and it will come with an overwhelmingly heavy sense of presence a lot of times too, which will make us cry. But they don't want us to be sad. They want us to be happy and remember, wow, that smells like my mom, or that smells like whoever. They want us to be happy about those things, but we can let those things trigger us to be negative.
Yeah.
For sure. So I asked our listeners, what traumatic events can you blame for your triggers? And surprisingly, 30% said childhood abuse or neglect.
Yeah, that would probably be my one.
Yeah, I fall in there. Yeah.
Any kind of physical contact that's negative, it sets me off, especially when there's kids involved.
Yes, you're very sensitive to the kids. Very sensitive. Me too. It definitely is the childhood abuse and neglect, and I didn't even realize that for a long time. And now I'm starting to really see, wow, you do this because of this. And when you put those two things together, a lot of times it can help you heal. That's how we heal from this childhood abuse, because nobody deserved that. None of us deserved that. This 30% that's experienced this, we didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
But they can't undo it. We have to try and just heal from it ourselves.
Yeah.
The next one was loss of a loved one or a pet. I absolutely. That's another one with the loss of the pet. The one that I was saying that happened in the middle of the night. She died very suddenly from hemangiosarcoma. That has stuck with me. There was one night that Zuma woke up, and I don't remember what the problem. Oh, he had thrown up. That's right. And he slipped in it. Gross story. But I had no idea what was going on. All I knew, he couldn't get his footing, and there was vomit on the floor, and all of those feelings came rushing back. And I'm like feeling hot and shaky and nervous, and I'm realizing this isn't good for him. But I was triggered instantly. So in that moment, I started getting really nervous and upset, and I'm like, this isn't good. You have to relax. This isn't that situation. We have to do that in those situations to calm ourselves, to calm the animals or people that are with us, because they feed off of it as well. Yeah. But these things, the loss, death is a huge trigger for a lot of people, because it can really mess you up, especially when it's sudden. Bullying, we talk about this one all the time.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Rape or sexual assault, any kind of sexual abuse like that. Abuse within the relationship as well. A lot of times we take things that happened in previous relationships and we maybe think that they might happen in the relationship that we're in now. And so we're triggered by those past things and affect our current relationship with them. That's another one we have to look at.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of that, retraining my own mind when you and I, started seeing each other and realizing this isn't the same.
Yeah.
But you're still like waiting for certain responses and reactions to things. And, I never got them. So it took me a while to sort of like, oh yeah, this is different.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I still have times where that trauma sets in and I don't understand why in these types of ways. Like I dated someone that was really like, couldn't talk about my ex-husband, couldn't talk about past boyfriends or anything like that. So sometimes even like if I'm talking to a client and it's a male client, I will feel this weird sense of, I hope he doesn't think that there's anything going on. And I know that you don't, and that wouldn't even enter your head because you know that I would never do that. But because I was trained by this boyfriend to believe that talking to another man was wrong, sometimes I still even feel that. And it's this weird feeling of guilt, and I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just doing my job, and you didn't do anything, but it's there. So I have to remind myself, this is trauma. This isn't something that he's doing or he's thinking or anything. Because we can make our own minds start to go. Because we don't know what the other person is thinking. But I know you're not thinking that. So.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Your cousin Hope added, growing up... Yeah, hi Hope. Growing up without financial security is a trigger.
Yeah, we did. We did, Hope.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's part of... That's what our lesson was this time around.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be like maybe other times you've experienced you don't remember.
Yeah.
And you'll experience all those things, but I totally understand that. You and I in particular, meaning Samantha, came from two different worlds.
Very different, yeah.
I'm still the guy that like tries to squeeze the life out of the toothpaste tube.
Yeah.
Mr. Frugal.
Where he has to push it out so that because I can't push it out myself. Yeah. That's how little toothpaste
She was
is
ready
left
to throw it away, and I was like, no way, this has a good 7 more days. I think I squeezed 14 days out of that thing. So, bam.
Yeah, thanks for saving us $5 over our lifetime. I appreciate that.
I do what I can. But yeah, we just have different, and I can't say that your way is wrong or my way is right. It's just different experiences.
It is, yeah. And we have to remember that because we all do have different experiences and we all have different triggers. Yeah. So I'm going to give an example of triggers that you and I have and how it can clash us in arguments. So Danny has this thing about, what would it be, entrapped?
Yeah, like in a space and can't get away.
Right, can't get away, okay? Yeah. And I have a thing about people leaving the house angry. 2 rules I have: don't leave the house angry and don't go to bed angry. And that comes from trauma. That comes from my mom dying suddenly and things that she did when I was a kid, where yours also comes from being a kid. Those are 2 totally different things. I don't want you up in my face when we're fighting. I do want you to go away. No offense. I know you want me to go away too. That's how it works. Take your separate sides. Sure. But I think for you, sometimes even just being in the same house can feel like you could be cornered or whatever. So this is something we have to work together on, that when we argue, if it gets to that point, what are we going to do so that neither one of us feel triggered by those triggers? Because I would never hurt you, obviously, you know that.
Oh, yes.
So feeling like you might be hurt doesn't come from me, and I know that.
Yeah, not at all.
So, and I know that he's not going to get in the car and leave and never come back.
Right.
So, but these are things that you have to work on with your spouse, with whoever, because they are different. We all do have different experiences. So communication with this is important too, because you may not even realize what your spouse's triggers are. They may not even realize it. But getting down to the bottom of these things can make you have a healthier relationship, not just with yourself, but with your spouse and other people too.
I do agree with the not, going away or asleep angry. I definitely agree with that because I've had some experiences,
Yeah.
on the abandonment issue that can bring that up for me. But I also think if you're listening to this and you have issues sometimes where you're at a communication stalemate, with your partner, and it's not getting anywhere. Taking a time out is perfectly okay.
It's important. Yeah.
But you should resume. It's not like
yeah.
let's take a time out and forget and ignore.
Yeah.
No, that's not the purpose. The purpose is just for each of us to get a hold of yourself and just relax and start thinking about things in a calmer way. You might be able to receive a message as well as give a message better.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good. It's not bad.
No, it is important to take those timeouts. And that's something that we'll talk about next here. Let's talk about this. Yeah. The key in all this is learning how to recognize your triggers so that you can better control them. Mm-hmm. So what's the first step? The first step is to step back. And it's so funny because I listen to music when I do readings and when I'm doing this kind of stuff. And Third Eye Blind Jumper was playing when I was doing this. And it was literally saying, step back. When I was writing that, I was like, that's weird. Yeah, very strange synchronicity there. But anyways, so step back. Think about what just happened and respond. And in response to that trigger, I want to read you something here that I took. I took this from healthline.com.
See, that step back is giving, again, for me, like that 3 to 5 second rule of like, take a second.
Right.
Before you just immediately react.
Yep. This is a little bit of like an idea, an example here. It says, say you spent the afternoon deep cleaning your apartment and rearranging the living room. When your partner gets home from work, you wait excitedly for them to comment. Instead, they head to the kitchen for a snack and then settle onto the sofa without saying a word. You are disappointed that your hard work went unacknowledged and you start to get angry and frustrated. You can hear your heart pounding and your jaw clenching. It takes everything in you to not snap and say something like, notice anything different, or I can't believe you're so oblivious. So that's what we're supposed to do, is take a step back so that we don't say those things.
Yeah.
Like, I got my hair done, don't you notice?
Right.
Because I know for women that can be a trigger too. I've seen that a lot. If I cut an inch off my hair, you're most likely not going to notice. Right. But a lot of women are like, you didn't notice, and then get upset, right?
Right.
But take a step back. And ask yourself, well, first of all, what's this going to do? Why would I get upset over this? How's this going to help me? Right. But also, why? Why? What is it that's causing this? You have to trace the routes. So let's go on with what this says. Try following these feelings back to their origins by thinking back to other situations that made you feel how you're currently feeling. Maybe it suddenly seemed as if you were a teenager again, trying to make the house look perfect to earn approval from an indifferent parent who traveled often. Mm. When the emotional trigger, your partner's indifference, fires, you're transported back to that time in your life when you felt like nothing you did was good enough.
Yeah.
So when you trace them back, then you can see, oh wow, like I don't want anybody to leave the house angry because my mother did that. She sped off and it terrified me. Mm. So that makes the trigger there. Now I recognize that and I can say, okay, I understand why this triggers me, and I'll take a step back if, I'm faced with that situation. Mm-hmm. It really is important to do that. That's how we heal.
It is, and some people might listen to this and think, I don't want to go through that every time something pops up. Well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
But you're missing the lesson. And then every time this happens, you're faced with that intense emotion every time.
Yep.
But if you start to face it head on and look at it and give yourself that moment to comprehend what's happening, as time goes on and that trigger is triggered again, I think it becomes less.
Yep.
It becomes smaller.
Yep.
If you're doing this.
Yep.
But if you're not, and you're acting like this isn't worth my time, and I don't have an issue with that, well, then that's what your reality will be.
Yep. I think it's important for us to realize that the only person responsible for reacting the way that we do to those triggers is ourself.
Yeah.
This is something I learned the hard way with Marina, with our daughter Marina, because she's my stepdaughter and she moved in with us full time around the age of 14. She was going through some difficult stuff with her mom, and things that she was going through was triggering memories for me a lot, and things that we would get into arguments, and it would totally trigger all of these things. And I had to, at one point, I had to say to her, you know what? This is my trigger, and this is yours. Yeah. And I'm not going to do this so that it doesn't trigger you, and you're not going to do this so it doesn't trigger me. And it has worked so far. Because we didn't communicate about this, don't do this because this makes me feel this way. So you have to communicate with that and realize that Marina wasn't responsible for triggering me. She wasn't. It was the damage, and it was how I let it make me feel.
Right.
So I had to change that. I had to adjust the way that I felt about it. It's not easy.
Yeah, when I watch it happen to her, certain things, it triggers me.
Yeah.
And some of my issues. And then realizing, oh, wait a minute, but I can't react like immediately how I would have reacted.
Right.
Because now I'm dealing with a child that has their own, a minor that has their own triggers.
Yep.
And so that was important to me, to not add fuel to that fire.
Right.
To be creating another set of, traumas that she's going to be, directly affected by. I'm not perfect.
No
but
parent
there were
is.
certain things that I said I'm not going to do as a parent.
Yeah.
And
me too.
That was important to me.
Me too. And you know what? Nobody's perfect. And I had heard this the other day. I think it was on TikTok that, sometimes you have those arguments with your kids or whatever. That's okay. Those things are normal if they are like every once in a while. We're not talking once a week or maybe even once a month.
No.
If they're spread out and it's not a problem, it's okay to occasionally have that kind of disagreement with your child. It's when it's constant and you are on top of them. And I think that a lot of us have experienced that, and we need to undo those triggers that were done to us because of those things. Yeah. And we do have a tendency in society to say, this isn't my problem, and just allow it to continue and not try and fix it. Right. But I'll tell you that for everybody, I really feel like this. I really feel for everybody. That is one of the reasons why we are faced with what we are faced, to see how are you going to react? How are you going to change? Are you going to do the right thing or the wrong thing? Yeah. Are you going to take responsibility or not? And the universe wants to see us do the right thing. And when we do the right thing, we can move on from things and let go of them.
I agree.
Yes.
It's important too, especially for people that are in relationships, to not, we got to be accountable for ourselves, first and foremost. In our own reactions and actions and behaviors, and even in these instances where we've been triggered, we have to be accountable.
Yeah.
But if we're also aware of our partner's triggers, then there's a greater sense of respect for boundary.
Yes.
And knowing that full well somebody that's been through something in particular, for me to go to that area is not playing fair.
Right.
You're looking for a reaction. You're trying to upset somebody and get a reaction, which it's like ping pong.
It's not
until
good.
Somebody misses the shot. It's just going to keep going back and forth, back and forth. So it's wise to take investment in your partner in that area and respect them and the things that maybe that they've been through.
Yes.
That you know of. If you don't, well then, oops, sorry,
Yeah, then this is all about communication.
Yeah.
It really is all about communication. And I hate that, like, the poking and the arguing that to try and make it worse. Why do you want to try and make it worse? That just doesn't make sense to me. If you know that I have a trigger, don't purposefully trigger it. Sometimes we do things on accident, or we don't know, or we're not thinking, or whatever. But purposefully trying to trigger somebody's triggers isn't cool.
No.
It's just not. So when I say you have responsibility for your triggers, you do. But people shouldn't be trying to trigger you on purpose. That's not cool either. And that's a whole other story.
That's their lesson.
Yeah, that's true.
That they're missing.
Yep, that is true. Let's see. The last couple things I have written here. Don't ignore the feelings or fight back. Instead, approach them with curiosity to get more insight. So this, again, is about the growth. It's about, why do I act this way? Why does this make me feel the way that it does? And dissecting it. You can use that in so many different areas, not just in this, but also in like fear or anxiety. Why am I afraid of this? Why does this cause me anxiety? And pull it apart. And it really helps you. But you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Not a single one of us on this planet is perfect. We're not. So we are the cause of some of our problems. And we have to be honest with ourselves about that, as hard as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I have for you today, my friends.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah, I think it fits in right with what we were talking about. I talk to a lot of people that have these triggers that they don't even realize are triggers. And so I try and point them out and say, a little bit, maybe look at that next time you're in an argument or whatever. But, yeah.
And it goes along with what we've been talking about kind of in the last several episodes.
Yeah.
And the truth is, this is our life. Everything external, for the most part, is their life. Mm-hmm. This is our journey. And what we're here to achieve and fulfill within our own hearts, like what we want to do.
Right.
But the more that we can look at those things, I think the more fulfilling the journey becomes, and a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Too.
Yes.
Because this is a game. It's your consciousness. This is not going to go in the ground or wherever happens to you when you pass. Yeah. Whatever your choice is, that your consciousness is not staying there.
Yeah.
It's with you for eternity, man.
Yeah, it is.
So we've got to get a grip of ourselves in order to really experience a lot of this resounding messages like this Samantha shared with her daughter today in the reading.
Oh, yeah.
Just be happy. Mm-hmm. This is the goal. Does that mean that everything is going to be smooth water? No. But the goal is to always find your inner peace.
Yes.
Regardless
absolutely.
Of money.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of how many swipes you've got on Twitter.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many likes you've got here or how many cars you have parked in the driveway. Yeah. How many guitars. And I'm guilty of that. Be happy with what you have.
Yeah.
If you can really find that, there will be more. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't satisfy you, the chances are there probably won't be.
Yeah.
Because there's something to learn here. Is this good enough? And if you're always fighting that, then you're never going to find the place that's good enough. But if you can find happiness in the moment you're sitting in right now, there will be other moments that are just as equal, if not better.
Yeah.
But you have to find that. Okay. And this is part of finding that. Is like, picture yourself like a dumpster, and you're just getting rid of all this trash,
Yeah.
You're not getting rid of it per se. You're organizing it.
Yeah.
For
sure.
Because it's with you. You can't get rid
of
a lot of the things that happen to you in your memories, but you can better yourself.
You can.
And taking a look at ourselves requires a lot of effort sometimes.
It's hard work.
But you'll grow from it.
That's what I have spent the last 5 years doing, is trying to fix these things, trying to learn who I am and why I am the way that I am. And it means constantly picking myself apart and being honest with myself. And that is really hard. But you know what? At the same time, it feels good.
It does.
Yeah, it does, for sure.
Yeah.
So, you know what? One more thing before we end and give our information that I wanted to throw out there is that we are taking advertisers and sponsors for the show.
Yes.
Not just for this show, but also for the radio show. So if you have a company and you are looking to advertise somewhere, we are looking for sponsors and advertisers.
Yes.
So send us a message. You can email us at spiritualjoneses@gmail.com and we can give you more information on that. Especially if you have a business that kind of goes along with what we do, that would be fabulous. Because
Not necessary. But
no, it's
that
not
would be.
necessary. No, but I know that there's a lot of people that sell crystals or make different body things, essential oils or whatever. Those types of things I think are great to go along with this, that when people are tuning into a show that's about this metaphysical world, they want to hear about those types of things. So if you're interested in advertising in either place, just give me a message.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So there you go.
Cool.
Yay.
All right. Well, did you want to share your other page real fast?
Let's do that. So you can reach me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. You can set up an appointment there, too. For us, reach us, like I said, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com, or social media, find us at spiritualjoneses.
Yay.
And you, sir?
Yes, one more time for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, and at djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Yay.
And that's all I got.
Fabulous.
Well, we hope everybody got something from this today.
That we do.
And go out there and pay attention to your triggers.
Yeah.
And don't trigger others.
Yes, exactly.
Be kind.
That's the key.
Yes, be kind.
Be kind, yeah.
We hope everybody has a great week.
That we do.
And until next week, peace and love.